Hare Krishna. Welcome to the morning Bhagavatam class. We will begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Vayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet Sushusho shraddhadanasya vasudeva kataruchihi स्यान्महत्सेवया विप्रा पुण्यतीर्थनिषेवनात् शृण्वता स्वगता कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृद्यन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी तदा रजस्तमो भावा कामलोपादयश्च ये चेत एतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते विद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Hare Krishna. We are going to read from um, yeah, Canto 3, Chapter 4, verse number 24. Okay. Oh, 3, 4, 24. Sorry, one. Prabhu 3, 4, 26, right? I'm sorry, I got confused. Um,
26 months.
26, yeah, sorry. Okay, 3, 4, 26. Uddhava Uvacha ननु ते तत्त्वसम्राढ्य ऋषि कौशारवो अन्तिके साक्षात् भगवतादिष्टो मर्त्यलोकं जिहासता उद्धव उवाच ननु ते तत्त्वसम्राढ्य ऋषि कौशारवोऽन्तिके साक्षात् भगवतादिष्टो मर्त्यलोकं जिहासता One more time. Uddhava uvacha nanu te tattva samradhya rishi kausaravontike sakshat bhagavata dishto matyalokam jihasata. Uddhava uvacha. Uddhava said, Nanu, however, te of yourself, tattva samradhya, one who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge, rishihi, learned scholar, Kausharavaha, unto the son of Kusharu, Maitreya, Antike, staying nearby, Sakshat, directly, Bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead, Adishta, instructed, Matyalokam, mortal world, Jihasata, while quitting. Translation Sri Uddhava said, You may take lessons from the great sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world. I'll read once again. Sri Uddhava said, You may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world. Purport. Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of Maryada Vyatikrama, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of Maryada Vyatikrama, because by doing so one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well versed. So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya, another elderly person. But he was well versed also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but one should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerates the impertinence of Maryada Vyatikrama. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interest of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of the pseudo spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. This verse has a lot to give, actually. Um, we will try to go sentence by sentence and see if we can uh, gain some inspiration for our life. First of all, in the verse itself, the word samradhya, tattva samradhya, means one who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. Or samradhya means one who is worshipable. Uddhava is speaking this um, to Vidura, actually. So he's considering Vidura himself also as Samradhya, one who's worshipable. And he's also considering now um, Maitreya as also Samradhya, worshipable. And then there is the other word, uh, Svabhritya Kritaha. Yeah. So here, this, Sakshat Bhagavatadishto, meaning the knowledge that, or the transcendental science that Maitreya Rishi received is directly from uh, Bhagavatadishta, Sakshat Bhagavata, directly from Krishna himself. Adishta is instructed. So, and also there is a timing for this as well. If we see, Uddhava is very specifically mentioning that these are the final instructions of Krishna. And Maitreya Rishi actually was receiving it just before Krishna um, quit or left this mortal world. So there is a lot of importance, there is a lot of crucialness to the instructions that Maitreya Rishi received. And Uddhava is saying to Vidura to learn from Maitreya Rishi. Because in the last verse, Vidura requested Uddhava to kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord Himself. This is also a very wonderful verse, just the verse before this, um, because uh, Vidura actually is an elderly person and he has followed Dharma throughout his life. And he actually left the palace of Dhritarashtra with a very deeper conviction and very deeper inspiration that this is the act of internal energy, even though it looks like external energy. So he himself is actually very close to Krishna. But when Uddhava came, Vidura requests Uddhava to impart the transcendental knowledge. That's the exaltedness of the person who's hearing as well. That's the exaltedness of Vidura also. He's not just thinking about, okay, I'm older than him, I'm older than Uddhava, so how can I receive from him? So there is spiritual science is very um, much about the transcendental realization that the other person has, or spiritual realization the other person has, in rather than one's age constraints and all that. Even though we do respect elders. So now in this verse, there is the reciprocal etiquette we see from Uddhava that he is actually passing this on to Maitreya Rishi, because Maitreya Rishi is even um, you know elder to Uddhava. So now in the purport, Prabhupada begins off the purport with Maryada Vyatikrama. He wants to make it very, very impactful. When an opening sentence is having the punchline, it means Prabhupada really wants to go into this. We are seeing here that Prabhupada starts off saying, although one may be well versed in transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of Maryada Vyatikrama, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of Maryada Vyatikrama, because by doing so, one loses the duration of life, opulence, fame, piety, and the blessings of all the world. This is something very, very important. Maryada Vyatikrama, Vaishnava etiquette, the etiquette of giving the honor to a person who is more experienced is something very crucial, and we are from from day one we are actually instructed to be respectful and to be always in a um, mood of uh, hearing. And even if the question, even if one wants to ask a question, we are advised to ask in a non-challenging way, in a way of receiving than proving our one's own um, um, ability to question or ability to dig the topic, etc. So it's really seeming to be of a vital importance within spiritual world, even in spiritual culture. It becomes a very important point, even in nectar of instruction. Therefore, Rupa Goswami speaks in the sixth verse about how to respect different kinds of devotees. He's giving right there in the first four verses. He gives what is our personal application of how do we work on our own senses, our the anarthas or unwanted elements that may be present, atyahara, prayasa, etc. And then he gives the important six principles to follow. Right after that, he tells how to have Vaishnava relationships in general, and taking this how to have Vaishnava relationships in general, and then he's moving on to giving how to treat each, how to respect each, different levels of Vaishnavas. Respect is common across the board. And then how to appropriately respect, he just speaks of in the first six verses. We hear from Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita how important it is to submissively inquire from a tattvadarshi or from a teacher, how to submissively inquire about transcendental science, and that's the way to get purified. And he tells right after that in fourth chapter that such people who followed this principle that I'm giving in 34, they have become purified. Puta mad bhavam agata, when they become purified and then they come back to me. So he is giving the principle. It seems like everywhere in the scripture, this um, importance of Maryada Vyatikrama or Maryada, meaning giving Maryada. That is very important. That's the way descending mercy flows. So now we'll read the next few sentences. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive transcendental knowledge. So this is another where it was very striking when I was reading that Prabhupada says this is a technicality of transcendental science. He actually includes this offering of respect into the inner core of bhakti right now. He's bringing the aspect of offering respect and honor to the inner circle of transcendental science. This is the technicality of transcendental science. And then we see that Prabhupada gives Uddhava being well aware of these technicalities. That also says something. Uddhava has spent days and months and years with Krishna in Mathura, and he is a very close person. He is the most intimate devotee outside of Vrindavan, we have heard, and he holds a very special place in the entire Krishna's pastime outside of Vrindavan. Krishna consults him, and when we read even Uddhava, actually in Nectar of Devotion, Uddhava is given as an example of perfect recipient of Mahaprasadam. He always always used the clothes that were used by Krishna. Everything that was used by Krishna, he receives and he uses it. He wears it, he adorns, and then he actually looks like Krishna. So there is so much that Uddhava is extremely close to Krishna. Being in that position, he actually also knows the technicality of transcendental science. of giving respect to the person who is actually elder and who's also more experienced in spiritual science. So now Prabhupada says Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well versed. So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya, another elderly person. But he was very well versed also because he was directly instructed by Krishna or by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed, both had the authority to become spiritual master. Both had the authority even. It's not just one's own experience in spiritual realization. Krishna actually spoke to Uddhava and Maitreya was there, right? So in one sense, Uddhava seemed to have more authority when we think of it. But still, Uddhava refers um, Vidura to Maitreya Rishi. So that's the another beauty of this relationship, what's going on. Actually speaking, Uddhava is a pure devotee. He was he was the one who actually, saw Krishna very beautifully leaning on the wide banyan tree. And Krishna spoke to Uddhava, and there happens to be Maitreya Rishi. So Maitreya Rishi also heard Krishna speaking. So now um, Maitreya Rishi becomes the most important person in this scenario because of his um, renounced order, because of his um, being there when a loving relationship interaction was going on between Krishna and his devotee. Maitreya Rishi was there. That takes on even more importance to um, impart spiritual knowledge. So it only is more and more becoming clear that when an exchange is happening between Krishna and his devotee, and if we happen to be there, we get polished, we get um, more and more refined. And that refinement is actually going to allow a person or allow one to share Krishna consciousness with another person. So now, then in later, the last part of the purport, Prabhupada tells one should not be eager to become spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame. Labha, puja, pratishtha, we have heard. Here, Prabhupada tells spiritual master, and we can also see even in our regular life, um, for as practicing devotees, what's what is the intention, what is our deeper uh, motivation for doing something. So this topic came up in Sunday's Bhagavatam class also. So here again it's coming up that what is the motivation for actually teaching somebody, or actually sharing knowledge with, or sharing something that we have learned with someone. Because in the previous verse, this beautiful word is there. Um, Vidura uses this word, Swabhritya Artha Kritaha. So Vidura uses this word to address address Uddhava, saying that you are actually um, a servant of Krishna, and servants of Krishna, what is their interest? The interest for them is Svabhritya Krita Artaha. For they live, they wander the world for the interest of their servants. So it's very crucial role to play to share Krishna consciousness. And when we share, we want to share not just the knowledge aspect, but actually the culture of Krishna and the culture that Krishna appreciates. the principles of respect, principles of humility that Krishna really deeply appreciates. That's what one wants to pass on. If we are passing on to anyone, naturally everybody is teacher in this world because we all have roles to play in very different areas within our family. So if we are parents, then there is a teacher role automatically, natural teachers, right, to dependents, and there is a natural flow of um, the role comes on, even if we are just around for a few years, then we have a responsibility of sharing. But how and what we share takes on much more importance than just the content of sharing. How we share becomes even more crucial, and the mood we share that becomes even more crucial here. Prabhupada is really emphasizing on um, proper honor that needs to be given for experienced or advanced devotees. So this verse again is there is there are many courses being developed in this aspect, Vaishnava etiquette courses, to for us to know and learn and appreciate and see how to practice Vaishnava etiquette. There's so much research being done and quotes and many literature being focused on this particular item. I mean, even the entire Bhagavatam is about this. When Shukadeva Goswami walks in to the assembly, even Narada Muni and Vyasadeva sit there. Their Maryada is according to the role that Shukadeva Goswami is going to play. This is really amazing. It's very intricate as well. So this point is extremely important, seems like. And this particular verse, I don't think I am able to really speak to the um, crucialness of this verse, but Prabhupada has given us the purport and it's very, very helpful. So I'll just read the translation again. Sri Uddhava said, "You may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world." So there we end. It's already 8 o'clock. If there is any um, discussion, we can go for a couple of minutes because it's a working day for everybody. And there are other devotees who are very experienced here. Gopalari Prabhu is here. And please, Prabhu, if you want to share something on this topic, if you are in a position to share your circumstances, we would be happy to hear.
What you shared, Mataji, was very nice. I really don't have much to add to that. It's really nicely shared and presented. And yeah, I actually learned a lot by hearing from you. So thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's very interesting. I don't know if you or Gopal Hari Prabhu joined yesterday's class. Mukunda Prabhu was actually mentioning the other way around. The inspiration of this verse versus yesterday's verse is how wonderful it is from Vidura's perspective. He's not bothering about the age or anything. So in the similar way, Mukunda Prabhu is bringing this point, how, out of your own attraction and absorption in the Shastra, how you're doing this Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhava courses, you, Pratibhahu Prabhu and Gopal Hari Prabhu. And there are many, senior devotees in terms of age, and they're actually getting benefited. So the point that was coming out yesterday was irrespective of one's age or whatever experience, we can actually grasp the spiritual essences from where it is available. And today, the point is, it's so stressed from Uddhava's perspective about that Maryada Vyatikrama. So one thing is becoming clear for me in spirituality, it's very dynamic. I cannot just say cookie cutter and every single person has to, every single situation has to accept one particular, thing. The principle is there, but how it's applicable in that particular context, you were bringing this beautiful example of Shukadeva Goswami coming. So for that particular context, that is probably the Maryada. It's kind of bewildering if you have to see through, our mundane logic or whatever. But I'm slowly starting to appreciate the dynamic nature of spiritual principles. Yeah. And the other thing that you brought up, Maitreya, just happened to be there. I think a couple weeks back, right after the temple inauguration, Vamshidhari Prabhu gave this very beautiful discussion. In that, Prabhu brought up just Premanand Mataji or, these spiritual, wonderful personalities who are guiding this congregation. They had this desire and vision for Shishi Radha Shamsundar to appear and that we have a nicer facility to serve. With the reciprocation of Radha Sham for these devotees, we just happen to be around.
Yes.
We got so much.
The entire life is like that. I feel sometimes that. Sorry, I didn't.
No.
But
Yeah,
that point
yeah.
is from the beginning of spiritual life, it seems like that's what is going on. That's what is sustaining or um, giving life to us. There is some exchange, some interaction. Even now, our spiritual masters and anybody who is actually sharing Krishna consciousness, their loving relationship with Srila Prabhupada is going on. We happen to be there.
Mm.
It's not like being impersonal that they don't relate with us. I'm just saying that there is that the relationship is ongoing between them and Prabhupada, and then we get polished in between just for being present. Even
Yeah.
our presence also is because of their mercy that we kind of, everything is Mahat Seva. We kind of happen to be there. It's not also like our credit. It's really amazing, this principle of getting polished in between.
Yeah. Prabhu was sharing, Vamshidhar Prabhu was sharing how it's like beyond our thing to be part of or imagine the fortune of, being able to participate or be engaged in some way. So he was sharing, I mean, I just remember that it's so beautiful how you brought up our every day, every service that we are engaging. It's not that I have something, so I got the opportunity, but it's just happened to be there. And even when I say I'm good, I don't have time or this or that, devotees are kind enough to somehow, encourage and engage. Yeah, so it's so beautiful and very encouraging, very hope giving, actually. Yeah, thank you so much, Pantini.
Thank you.
Just on this point that you were mentioning, Mataji, that was brought up yesterday by Mukunda Prabhu. I was there for the class. Like in terms of teaching Bhakti Shastri and things, that's true. And at the same time, there's one devotee who was giving like a class in the same city that his spiritual master was at the same time, and it was like some sort of class, like a Bhakti Shastri class or something, and that was kind of he realized and others realized that was not correct. So in other words, we are preaching because we've been advised and encouraged to preach, but I think even in that circumstance, which Mukunda Prabhu was mentioning, if in the presence of a greater personality, we wouldn't we wouldn't, I think, be justified to do it at the same time, unless specifically ordered by that greater personality. And that's not just in terms of the spiritual master, but anyone, like uh, because that's I think the very principle that in this verse is being said, that Uddhava, even he's spiritually advanced more than Maitreya Muni, but he's sending Vidura to Maitreya because he's in the vicinity. Now, if Maitreya Muni was not in the vicinity and Vidura could not go there, then he would have spoken to Vidura and upon Vidura's request. But because there was someone who was, in the vicinity, who was older in age and more experienced, and was a sage in terms of, in terms of his ashram, was more more superior, then he deferred to him. So I think there's kind of I think both of those things do come together. Like it's dynamic at the same time. There is a like they do merge those principles where on the order of the spiritual master we are doing, but then always conscious that we're doing because there's the need. But if in the vicinity there's someone who's more spiritually enlightened than us, then we would defer to them, unless again instructed by them that no, you should do this because I'm asking you to do it.
Right.
So that's just I thought a nice connection actually that you brought in. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for sharing.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, couple of, very thought-provoking, and a couple of examples that came to my mind was, it starts with Krishna himself. When he was a young child, he speaks to his father, and that's how the Govardhana Leela happens. There we can see the Vaishnava etiquette. And we also see how Prahalad Maharaj, as a young boy, he was trying to preach, and how it was, being received by others in the, the younger children, but not really by the elders. That is how not etiquette should be. And then, even within our ISKCON congregation, we see a lot of such devotees who are very young and who are preaching. One name that comes to my mind is Amarendra Prabhu. He's, he's so enthusiastic and so powerful when he preaches, and that said, what Gopal Hari Prabhu said just now, that came to my mind. Vicinity in the modern world, I'm trying to comprehend what that means, because on Zoom calls and live streaming, all of America is reachable. In fact, the entire globe is reachable. So how do we consider vicinity, and how do we manage that? Thank you, Mataji.
Basic principle is in the presence of another experienced devotee, we first give the honor for them to speak, unless, as Prabhu said, we are instructed to do something as a service. So how it turns out in different circumstances depends on the circumstance, but the idea, the important principle for any relationship is respect. Respect is the fabric of, that's the main thing for relationship, is the essence. Then how it is expressed and where it is expressed depends on the circumstance. Yes, we have Zoom calls, it goes out to everywhere, but who's on the Zoom call matters. If we see someone, we do need to give the honor, unless it is like right now, see, there may be senior devotees, there are senior devotees on the call, and I am supposed to do this service, and we have to do our service, but at the same time, the honor goes to them. It is, it's only by Vaishnava's mercy, and especially spiritual master. But then, I'm just saying that in this context, we must have that respectful approach to whatever service we are doing, not just even speaking. There's other things like if you're doing any other service that when someone much advanced than us comes, we should first offer them, and then we, then with their blessings, we go forward. So it's the principle of respect, which is dynamic, which needs to be that's the challenge to keep that principle active in us when we are in different circumstances. That's where our growth and that's where our purification happens actually, and we keep learning forever this particular principle, I feel. If Gopal Haripur would like to add something to this question about online audience and how to.
Just one small thing, Mataji. More than online audiences, what I meant is, let us say, there are one or the other Maharaj or senior Vaishnava constantly giving, like streaming lectures or something like that, that is happening all the time, even in our time zone. So in that case, how do we defer, let us say, our Bhagavatam class? Do we defer our Bhagavad Gita class? That's what I was more asking
That's
about.
what you are thinking. Okay, they're not on
Yes,
the
Mother.
call, but someone is they're doing somewhere. In
Mm-hmm.
that case, actually, we should be aware. I mean, I don't know. I should say this. It's a very when I first learned how to do Mangalarti several years back, um, and I was told that how we offer, and then we turn back and offer to Vaishnavas, even if there's nobody in the room to our eyes. We should be aware that whenever there is worship of Krishna being held, there's Narada Muni and Lord Brahma, and everybody is standing there.
Yeah, Mother.
We cannot see, but they are there. So
Mm-hmm.
respect goes. Do I just leave Mangalarti and look for them to come and do the Mangalarti? No, it's my service we are doing. But then we should be aware that all through the globe, Prabhupada's mission is going on at full scale. And there's so many experienced devotees who are doing this on behalf of Prabhupada everywhere, like you're saying, in the same town, in the same place, online, the same time frame, all this. So we are doing it as a service, but especially when they are in our presence, when we are doing, then we need to stick to the principle that
Yeah.
is being followed by Uttava.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so
That's
much. Yeah, that helps. Yeah.
okay. I think we are way over time, 16 minutes over time. This topic is very vast, very wide. I'm sure that we will have more to contemplate, and probably we can, when we meet next time informally, we can talk about these things. But just giving Krishna is facilitating, Srimad Bhagavatam is facilitating a topic for our discussions, even when we are not in the Bhagavatam class. So thank you very much, devotees. Hare Krishna. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam
Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavibhyo.
Vaishnavibhyo namo Namaः. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.